Three NHL breakdowns. We're going to talk about the Maple Leafs and the Dallas Stars, the Red Wings and Flyers, and the Minnesota Wild playing host to the Florida Panthers. Look forward to getting into all of those games. Best bets at the end of the show, and we'll jump into all kinds of great holiday season promotions going on right here on WagerTalk TV. Guys, welcome in. Happy to have you all. Smaller slate here on a Wednesday, but a good slate. Though, to even break down here. Carm, how was your Tuesday night?
My Tuesday night, Andrew. Let's talk about your Tuesday night first. 2-2 night for me. The $5 customer appreciation play got there fairly easy for me. But you, man, you are hotter than Patrick Laine right now, man. Your Montreal Canadiens woke up in the morning, chose violence, and took it out on the Buffalo Sabres yesterday, man. What was the final score? 6-1? They absolutely battered the Sabres. Congrats to you. Also on winning your big play at Carolina team total. It's always fantastic to cash a ticket halfway through the game where you don't even have to watch the. It's almost like I'm going to go watch the first period and that's pretty much it. So congrats to you on that, Andrew. It's a small schedule tonight, but there's still some really good games. We're going to talk Philadelphia Flyers, Detroit Red Wings. We're going to talk the Toronto Maple Leafs, goaltending issues in Toronto, injuries in Dallas to face the Dallas Stars. We are going to skip the props today. Andrew's prop playbook will return again on Friday or on Thursday. We're going to finish it off with Florida, Minnesota, and then some best bets. Hopefully we can cash some best bets. Carolina, my best bet yesterday on the show, Carolina in regulation got there over the Thailanders. They smacked around the Islanders. Who knows? Andrew, only one goal scored from the New York State-based teams yesterday. The Islanders get shut out. The Rangers get shut out. The Sabres score one. Three teams, they score a combined one goal. All is not well in New York, in the state of New York right now. But
Carm, I'll say this
congrats,
too.
man.
I'm fired up. I'm pumped. 10 straight, and it was the team total over 3.5. We're going for number 11 tonight. But I was thinking, because your best bet on the show was Carolina regulation, and I've been loving the team totals. But Carolina, they can get a lead and protect it. The Islanders do have good goaltending. And I saw that game ended 4-0 yesterday. So after it only took 2 periods to hit, in the third period, there was nothing after that. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if this game would have ended 3-0 and the regulation would have hit, the puck line would have hit, the money line would have hit, but the team total didn't, I don't know what I would have done. So I'm just sitting here very thankful right now that we got 4 goals in the second period, and I've just got one play for tonight. So looking forward to that.
Listen, you don't celebrate until you can celebrate. We've seen it before. You could have like the over in a game and there's 5 goals in the first period and you are laughing all the way to the bank. And then those are the only goals that are scored the rest of the game. This is sport. It doesn't matter whether it's the NHL, NFL, NBA, you are never cashing that ticket until it cashes. There's so much stuff that can happen to sort of send that on a tangent, going the other way, mush your ticket. There's many ways of it happening, but we always come back the next day, Andrew, and try it again. Speaking of coming back the next day and trying it again, we are talking about the Detroit Red Wings and the Philadelphia Flyers right now. This one opened at minus 120. It's down to 115, so not much of a move yet on this one. Red Wings at Little Caesars minus 115. The Flyers minus 105. It looks like it's going to be Urson and Lyon, but those are the projected goalies. I'm waiting for the morning skate, Andrew, because obviously we know it's been pretty much Ville Husso who was called up. Cam Talbot is still working through his injuries. And Husso was taken off of the IR and reactivated. So Lalonde has stated as of yesterday, when he had the full team at practice, that he doesn't know who's going to start today. So hopefully before the day is up or before the show is up, I'll have an update on that one. One of the beat reporters for Detroit, Ansar Khan, who I follow on Twitter, will usually post something from the morning skate, because I would rather play as good as Husso's been or has looked, Andrew. I'd rather play a Line in this one, because Lion's numbers, despite the fact that Detroit struggled and has struggled for most of the year, when he's been in goal, he's been good. Goals against average under, I think, 2.7 or in and around 2.7. A save percentage around 905, 906, 907, somewhere around there. Those are good numbers in the modern day NHL, because there's a lot of goalies struggling right now in the NHL. If Lyon is in goal, and this is one of those goalie dependent ones, if Lyon's in goal tonight for Detroit, I'm going to look for a rapid revenge on the Red Wings, because they've won 2 of the last 3, but that one sandwiched in between was a loss in Philadelphia, 4-1 to the Flyers, in which that game was 1-1 till the third period, and then a shorthanded goal and 2 empty net goals made up the final score, 4-1. So that is how close that game was. You sort of discount those empty netters when you're thinking about how a team played. The shorthanded goal was obviously the biggest one in that game in the third period, 3 straight goals by the Flyers. Let's see if they can get some rapid revenge here. So it's Detroit for me, but I want to see Alex Lyon in goal. What do you think?
Carm, I really don't want us going head to head. I don't want the gloves off at center ice, and I'm
Oh,
usually a
go ahead,
rapid
man.
revenge guy. I'm usually a revenge type of guy, but I don't know kind of how this slowly started to happen. You guys know I'm always going to be an eye test guy. I'm always going to be the handicapper with hockey that watches the games. I watch a ton of hockey, same like Carm, but I couldn't believe this when I saw it here. Philadelphia in the month of December, Carm, the number 1 team as far as expected goals against. They are giving up the fewest chances out of any other team in the whole entire league in the month of December. And when I saw that, I had to slide over and say, well, maybe they've just played far fewer games than everybody else, because there's no way this team is playing well defensively. No, they've played pretty much the same number of games as most teams have, and yet they are the number 1 team as far as the expected goals against numbers. Now, you take a look at the goals for numbers. The Detroit Red Wings are the 4th worst team in the month of December as far as goals for. And I've talked about how this Detroit team, I think that they did their rebuild the wrong way. And Carm, you've got a guy like Patrick Kane right now on that team that just can't produce. That's not being the Patrick Kane that he once was. Like, imagine if you're a young kid watching hockey these days and you never knew how great Patrick Kane was. If you're a kid watching hockey these days, even if you're 7 years old, 8 years old, I don't even know how old, you probably don't know the greatness of Patrick Kane. And even Vladimir Tarasenko hasn't been that good these days. So some of these older guys, and so there's so much reliance on the top players to produce. Having said that, both these teams are actually in the bottom 5 in December for expected goals against. Expected goals for. So I would look towards the under in this game. But I do like Philadelphia. Apparently their defense is playing well. You look at some of the matchups they've had recently. They have been competitive. They have made things very difficult on their opponents. And I just think that, when I look at this revenge stuff, Carm, revenge for me is more applicable when it's a good team, and that's the thing I worry about. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if it ends up working out, I get it. And I'm a huge fan of that stuff. And I played it yesterday with Carolina, just like yourself. It was kind of a week and a half revenge with Carolina over the Islanders. But I prefer betting on revenge when it's good teams. And I just am not really a believer in Detroit. Could I talk you into an under in this one? Just based on some of those numbers here for these teams not producing offensively. People know they're not that great defensively, at least on a large scale. But as of right now, the numbers that I'm looking at at a few websites that I use tell me that these teams are both not producing any offense right now.
Right, you probably could. You look at, if you weren't looking at the standings at all, Andrew, and you looked at these two teams, you would think the Flyers are having a much better season than the Detroit Red Wings, and yet the Flyers have played a game more than Detroit and are only 4 points up on Detroit. Uh, if Detroit was to win tonight, they're essentially, you got the Flyers at 32, you got Detroit at 30, and Detroit's got a game in hand. It's hard to believe, given the way their seasons have gone, that these teams are close, because the Flyers compete each and every night. Detroit doesn't. To your point of the under, well, you look at scoring for this Detroit team. They are the lowest scoring team in the Eastern Conference. They have 78 goals. They're averaging 2.6 goals per game. The next lowest team is at 86, which is the New York Islanders. Pretty much everybody's in that 100 range. We got a few of them in the 90s, but they're just not scoring goals, and this is why they're third from the bottom. But the reason why they still have 28 points and they're essentially 6 points out of a playoff spot. As bad as the Red Wings have been, they're 6 points out of a playoff spot because their defense has been good as far as allowing goals. And this is given the fact that injuries to Cam Talbot, injuries to Alex Lyon, having to bring up Ville Husso. They've allowed 94 goals, Andrew. That's 3.1 goals per game. That is pretty good. That's a pretty good number. 94 ranks it would be top 8 in the Eastern Conference, I believe. Not bad there. So yeah, you could easily talk me into taking the under in this one. You look at that. I mentioned the past game, the 4-1 game. The XG numbers for that one were 3.57 to 1.97 for Philadelphia in that one, and that's with a couple empty net goals. And again, I mentioned a shorthanded goal, 3 goals in third period on what was a dead under, and it still stayed under. So, yeah, I could see leaning at 6. I'm surprised it's not a 5.5, given how the seasons these teams are having. But put Alex Lyon in goal for me tonight, so at least I can take the Wings, and if they somehow lose, then at least I got the goalie I wanted between the pipes. Thoughts?
Well, especially with these teams, you want to know which goalies are in net, right? I mean, there's some good teams in the league where you're not as worried about it, but then there's some teams like these where you definitely want to know who the goaltenders are. So I don't blame you whatsoever. And I think our whole audience is probably the same as us when looking at the goaltenders matchup. You can use RotoWire, you can use Goalie Post, you can use Daily Faceoff. There's all kinds of great websites that you can use to make sure you're getting the goaltenders of your choice. And there's also some great websites to use just to get that goaltender information as far as their stats are concerned. So yeah, you're right, Carmen. It'd be funny to see if we saw the script just flip when Detroit wins in low scoring fashion here. And the more I kind of talk about this, and the more while you were talking, I dove deeper into the analytical numbers, the more I think I just like the under than the side in this one. And a lot of the times, you remember, Carm, I would say take the opposite of the total of the first meeting. Like if the first one went under, second one goes over. I've kind of been getting away from that lately, especially in times like this. I just feel like it's better off. The revenge factor makes more sense. But at the same time, teams kind of are who they are. So unless it's like a back-to-back, like Detroit and Montreal are going to have a back-to-back. I think it's Friday and Saturday. That might be interesting. Like if the first one goes under, second one maybe will go over because it's back-to-back. But if it's not like back-to-back and this is more of a revenge spot over a week or something like that, you don't really need to look at that total angle. And so, some things change for you as a handicapper, and that's kind of changing for me because I see no reason why both games between these teams can't go under. And like you mentioned, Carm, if I do end up playing the under in this one, I'll definitely be waiting to see what the goaltenders are because that is super important in this one. And I'm curious to see what goes on with Cam Talbot, man, and his health. Because right now, I know we don't want to spend too much time talking about Philadelphia and Detroit, but right now, the bottom of that Atlantic division is really interesting. And obviously you and I, well, our teams, they're right there at the bottom with Buffalo and Montreal. But if you look at Detroit and Ottawa and Buffalo and Montreal, the good news for Buffalo is they actually got off to a pretty good start to their season. So despite the massive losing streak, Carm, they're still not like completely out of it, which is crazy to say. You've got Florida at the top, right? You've got Toronto at the top. Then you've got your Tampas, you've got your Bostons, and then you've got kind of the stack of the bottom feeding teams in the Atlantic. And I think at this point in the season and the expectations going into it, it's a battle between all these teams for how they can fare and stack up against each other. These teams know they're not going to be better than Tampa Bay or Florida or Toronto or Boston. They want to be better than each other. And right now, Ottawa is the team in that playoff spot, Carm. So I look forward to seeing how that stacks up as far as the Atlantic Division. And speaking of which, we're going to talk about another Atlantic Division team with Toronto, Carm.
But Andrew, a final point on that one, because you mentioned the Sabres. You could put the little E on the standings there for eliminated from playoffs because they're 8 points out of a playoff spot right now. And I mentioned on previous shows that it is so hard to make up points in the NHL when you dig yourselves into a hole. The Sabres last year were 7 points out on December the 1st, finished 7 points out at the end of last season. That just shows you that you just can't get into a hole. That's a team in disarray. That's a team that who knows, Andrew? We talked about it last night, you and I. Are they a seller at the trade deadline? They're dealing from a position of weakness that teams know that they want to move some players or are going to want to move some players, and they end up taking bad deals because of it. So with that said, let's talk Leafs. So goaltending. I mentioned this at the top of the show with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Stollards, 4 to 6 weeks for him. He's going to be out of the lineup. He has been absolutely rock solid for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and now it falls on Joseph Woll, and who becomes the de facto number one goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you'll have Hildeby, who started that game against the Sabres on the weekend that finished on Sunday, that finished 5-3. Maybe not the best duo for them. Maybe the holiday season and some days off help as far as Woll goes, so he doesn't shoulder much of this heavy schedule, Andrew. But it is a bad spot. Toronto has been pretty much injury-free most of the season. I know Austin Matthews is out for a few games, but they've been coasting along, playing extremely well at home, not so well on the road. And they get a Dallas Stars team that played a fantastic 60 minutes against the Washington Capitals at home. Andrew, I see goals in this one because I think this is one of those ones where we talked about it before. You correlate what a team does with how the total goes. And I think if you're going to take the Leafs, or you think the Leafs are going to stay in this game, they're going to have to score some goals. Because I think Dallas is playing some really good hockey right now. Offensively, they're playing some really good hockey. Even if the goals aren't coming, their XG numbers are high each and every game. I like the over 5.5 in this one. I think it started at 6, dipped to 5.5, and would not surprise me if this game is at 6 again, because I'm seeing the juice come in now on the 5.5. The over is being hit on this one, so this could hit 6 again. Give me the over in this one, 5.5. What do you think?
Looking for some goals here with this one here, Carm. I like it, man. For me, I'm going to go ahead and take the Dallas Stars. But with that being said, you know what I like to do, Carm. I like looking at the team totals. I like getting an even better price on some of these teams. And that's what I'm going to do here with the Dallas Stars. As you talked about with this team, playing some pretty good hockey. And one thing I like about the Dallas Stars is when they get kind of, a wake-up call, they seem to always respond in a positive way. And let's be honest, every single team was beating the Nashville Predators. Nobody was losing to the Nashville Predators. and then the Stars lose to the Nashville Predators. They lose 4-1, but they follow it up with two massive, massive defensive efforts. One goal allowed against the Blues, one goal allowed against the Capitals. But this is a team, I believe, that has the offensive firepower and the depth to kind of expose some of the weaknesses right now that the Maple Leafs are going through. And here's the thing, is that we have to respect that Craig Berube's style has definitely taken some it definitely has done its job with the Maple Leafs, right? I mean, Berube and his defensive style and physicality, it's worked. There's no denying it for the Maple Leafs. But if you look at some of the advanced metrics, both Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll have been overachieving big time in goal. Now Stolarz out for 4 to 6 weeks. That makes a big difference because, as you mentioned, Hildeby did not look as good as a Woll or as a Stolarz does, right? So now you're going to have a lot more starts for Joseph Woll. And the one thing with him in his career so far as a Toronto Maple Leaf, he's never really had to be the number one starter, Carm. He's pretty much been a guy with 50-50 splits, or he's been the backup because Anthony Stolarz stole the number one job from him this year. And Samsonov was, well, maybe the number one guy for a large portion of last year. So now he's going to have to start a majority of the games here. I can get Dallas plus 125 to get to 4 goals. And against some of these strong teams like the Maple Leafs, this is when Dallas does their scoring. You know, against some weaker teams, it seems like Dallas gets a few goals and they lock it down. And that was kind of a trend I found when I was going through some of the Dallas Stars scores, is that when they play bottom feeders, they're not one of those teams that run the score up, Carm. They actually, like, it's almost like they're polite. They just say, we're going to get 3 on you and that's enough. That's all we need against you guys. But when they play against top teams, that's where they actually do their scoring the most. And one more thing to mention as I keep talking about these expected goals, well, the Maple Leafs are the 5th worst team in expected goals against in the month of December. And if you go all the way back to the month of November, they are still a bottom 10 team in expected goals against. So it's kind of funny. I'm going to throw it back to you with this here, Carm. And you know, I've had to give my respect to the Maple Leafs as much as I don't like it and it pains me to. They have been one of the biggest under teams in the league. But how much has this had to do with the goaltending for them? How much has their success this year had to do with the goaltending? We're about to find out, I believe, but Stolarz out 4 to 6 weeks. That's worrisome for the Maple Leafs because they get him from Florida. He starts a bunch of games for them, one of the best save percentages in the league, and now he's getting knee surgery. That's not very good for this Maple Leafs team.
No, it's not, Andrew. And I think one of the reasons is that when the original projection is 4 to 6 weeks, how many times in sports when they give you the initial projection that it's never a player coming back sooner than that, it is always later than that. And we saw it with Thatcher Demko, where he'll be ready for the start of the season, and he's not ready for the start of the season, and now he's finally starting getting there. How long have we been told by the Colorado Avalanche that Landeskog is just months away from returning? It's been what, 2.5 years, Andrew, that since he's played, at least a couple of years, which is, that's kind of sad because Landeskog's such a good player, man, and you want to see him back in the NHL. But you just don't know with these ones. So 4 to 6 can easily become 6 to 8, and then you just never know if they come back the same way and play the same way. But the Leafs, as a whole, have been playing better defense, more so at home. I think they're playing sort of the Craig Berube style of play. He's got them playing some very good defense. They're buying into his system, similar to what I said about New Jersey yesterday, and with Sheldon Keefe, and New Jersey's buying into it. It's funny because on yesterday's show, I talked about wanting to get a coach fired like 18 times, and I meant to say Paul Maurice, but instead I said Pierre Maguire. And Andrew, Pierre Maguire's his name just sticks in my head because if you watch enough hockey, Pierre Maguire is like Chris Collinsworth when he's calling an NFL game, where he has a love affair with every single player. It's like the best play ever. This is a play of the year. Oh my God, this guy is standing on his head. It's just like, call the game, man. Just call the game. Tell me what's happening. I don't need all of this other stuff coming into it. But the Leafs are, with that said, Andrew, Leafs are 5-8 on the road, despite their very good home record. 5-8 on the road with a -10 goal differential. Those are not good numbers for them. Those are numbers that they're going to have to get better at, because last season they were a good road team, not so great at home. You want sort of that home form to carry on the road. That's what gets you one of the number one seeds in the division, which is very important. And the Leafs have found that out the last few years. When you finish in that second and third spot in the Atlantic, you're unfortunately stuck with playing a very good team and then having to play another very good team. You want a wild card team in the first round, win the Atlantic, and you get a wild card team in the first round and improve your chances and percentages of making it into the second round. So we'll see tonight. I like your Dallas play. I hope, hey, 6-0 Dallas. I'd be fine with that. I will say
That
this,
works.
Andrew. One last. I'm talking like crazy, Andrew. What did we say yesterday would be the perfect final score in the Rangers? Sorry, in the New Jersey, New York Islanders game? Do you remember?
Yes, I forgot about that though. Wow. Yes, that is
Four
awesome.
one,
'Cause-
4-1. So you could cash, because I gave out the under on the show. New Jersey in regulation was my 4% customer appreciation play. But obviously, I couldn't talk about that on the air. But I said to you, 4-1 would be a perfect score. I hit my under, you hit your the team total or what have you, and I also hit my regulation bet. So that was a good one. That's probably around 12-1 on your money. That's a lot of pizza, man.
You called it. I swear. It's like when Prez used to come on and give out these like -3.5s. And then he'd be like, wait, this actually won? This actually worked out? See, and this is the reason for everybody out there watching. This is the reason why I have grown to loving these team totals. Don't get me wrong. I will still play full game over or unders. I still will. But Carmen, if that's not a good example, I don't know really what is. And you know what else is a good example? Is the Carolina game. Sure, maybe I could have played the puck line or the regulation and felt a lot more safe. But if you had the full game over in the Carolina and New York game, one team got the job done and one team didn't do anything. So it's interesting because a lot of times when you're betting a full game over, right? You need one team to get to 4 goals anyway. The only difference is when you take team totals is that you have to pick which team is going to be the team that gets to 4. And if you can kind of lean that way, it's like me with Dallas and Toronto today. I lean towards Dallas on the money line. I like the team total. You know, one team, if you like the over, Carm, one team has to get to 4 in order to get your over.
Yeah. Yeah, in that, Andrew, in that game, the New Jersey game, because I was obviously watching that game. Down 3-0, Jim Montgomery pulled his goalie with 9 minutes left in the game. 9 minutes left in the game. He pulled his goalie. They quickly scored a goal, and I didn't even see them pull the goalie. It was a sneaky move with a face-off in the offensive zone. He pulls his goalie. They score a goal quickly, and then he puts his goalie back in, and then pulls him again with 4 minutes left. Now, if you're on the under 5.5 and you see a coach pull the goalie with 9 minutes left, it is fearful to the under. It's why I say I can't take Tampa Bay unders, because John Cooper is a guy who pulls his goalie with 6 or 7 minutes left in the game in 4-1 games. I don't see any other coach do that, but what a call by Montgomery to pull his goalie with 9 minutes left. It almost got him back into the game, but then an empty netter made it 4-1. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm gonna have to sweat another empty net goal. You know what I mean? When I give out plays on the show, and I give you leans, I'm taking them myself. I'll mention if I think they're going to be client plays as well too, but I take them myself. I'm not going to tell you guys to play Detroit -115 if it's lying in goal if I'm not betting it myself. It's stupid. Don't tell people to do with their money what you're not willing to do with your own. So those are my thoughts there, Andrew. And with that, let's get to Florida and Minnesota. Minnesota
Carm,
Wild, are they coming down to earth? We talked about, sorry.
I apologize, Carm, but I just wanted to jump in because
Oh,
we need. I just want to say one thing because there was people commenting and things like that, and don't like try and address it, but I just want to mention when I say that I'm on my run, and you guys should all know this by now, and for you guys that are new to watching the show, look, we've been giving out winners. There's going to be losers. The prop segment started off red hot to start the year. It's had its mixed bags since then. But the 10-0 streak is with client and customer plays over at wagertalk.com. I got a big play posted today at WagerTalk going for number 11. So, yeah, if I gave out a loser or some prop losers yesterday on the show, those don't apply to the 10-0 streak of the paid NHL client plays yesterday. So, Carm, I'm 100% with you, and I will tell you, I've mentioned it quite a bit, and I try and mention it on PuckTime. Hey, this is a play I really do like, right? But we are talking about best bets every day on the show best bet for you guys. I'm giving out multiple props. We're giving out opinions. So I like to try and make it clear for you guys, and hopefully you can tell by when I'm discussing games with my confidence level if I'm giving out an opinion or if I'm giving out a pick that I'm betting as well. And I'm not sure if this is the same for you, Carm, because I think it's different for every handicapper. There are games that I bet personally that don't get released to clients. And sometimes I wish I did, and sometimes I'm happy I didn't. So I just wanted to make that really clear because right now I'm on a really, really good NHL run, and all of those plays included in that run are from wagertalk.com. So just so you guys know, and I care about the picks I give out on this show. I want to win on this show. But all the streaks that we mention on all of our shows here on the Wager Talk Network, the streaks are from our best bets over at Wager Talk. Carm, sorry, I just want to make that clear so people know that we're not tracking every single lean and opinion we give out here on the show as much as we do want to win all of these plays.
yeah, of course, Andrew. It's always going to be like that. There's ebbs and flows to it, but at the end of the day, and at the end of each NHL season, you want to make sure that the clients who have been with you have a profitable season. So I talk to a lot of my clients via DM on Twitter because they'll want to bounce like ideas off of me. They'll want to bounce games that aren't part of my card on me and what I think, and I'll explain to them why I did or didn't make my card. So um, the idea of the show is sort of to give you a thought process into how we get to games. You don't have to like our picks on the show. You don't even have to take the picks on the show. But if you can understand how we got there, maybe it helps you formulate how you're going to make your picks. And if it helps you get to a winning selection, then so be it. If it helps you go to a site that is an analytics-based site that you can get some more information off of and draw information off of, so be it. I've had guys who send me messages and they're like, "How do I find out how a team's power play has fared in the last 10 games or or their penalty kill in the last 10 games?" Where they rank, and I will send them the information. I will send them screenshots of the information in the site and how to look it up. Because you want to give people the tools that'll help them make them better betters. Um, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's what it is at the end of the day, Andrew. So that's all you can hope for. With that said, Florida Panthers, Minnesota Wild, Gustafsson injured for Minnesota. So it's Marc-Andre Fleury as the starting goalie that I am seeing confirmed on RotoWire. It shows expected Bobrovsky, Florida -140, Minnesota +120. Total sits here at 5.5, Andrew. And I'm going to go to you first for your thoughts on this one. 2-2 on this road trip thus far for Florida. Back-to-back shutouts in Vancouver and in Calgary, but they somehow find a bunch of goals in Edmonton in that third period to overcome a 4-1 deficit and win that game. What are your thoughts on this game? Can they close it out with can they close out this trip and make it a winning trip before they head home to face the St. Louis Blues in a couple days?
Carm, I think this time of year, especially the holiday season right here in December, where we're starting to figure out what each team really is, what their identity really is. I think you really try and look at, whether it's bounce back spots, whether it's look ahead, all those cliche NHL handicapping terms that people use. You try and figure out, which spot is applicable to a said game. And I'm going to come out and say that I think the Florida Panthers, although they had 2 rough games in a row and then a big win, so maybe the focus level is still there, of course. I think that was a huge, huge, huge win for them over the Edmonton Oilers. And I liked the Florida side in that one. My play on that game, though, was the first period over, but I did lean towards the Florida side because I just thought they'd be so focused. And I was saying on the show, I think we talked about the game, that sometimes when you're a defending Stanley Cup champion, you need to be focused, right? I mean, if you look at it across all leagues, look at baseball, 162 games. You're going to tell me teams like the Dodgers don't get up for more games than others? You're going to tell me the Celtics in the NBA don't get up for more games than others right now? I think the Florida Panthers, they got up for that game against the Edmonton Oilers. But now you're going to give me another chance to bet the Minnesota Wild at plus money at home. I got to jump all over it here. A very back and forth, fast paced game for the Florida Panthers against Edmonton. And now you got a Wild team pretty rested. They haven't played a game in a handful of days here. They're coming off a loss against the Vegas Golden Knights, and they've been very inconsistent, man. This has been a win one, lose one, win one, lose one type of team. And quite frankly, when they've been losing lately, it hasn't really been that, respectable either. They lose 4-1 to the Kings. They lose 7-1 to the Oilers. This is going to be a pissed off Wild team playing at home, and we're getting plus 130 here where they play their best defense. Give me the Wild here at a good price. That's also one of my favorite plays here of the day. Over to you, Carm.
Do we have to do this again? I said, you never want to go against a guy who's on fire, but that's where I'm kind of going here, Andrew. I'm leaning to Florida. They came off that win in Seattle, a very good win, and then they go to Vancouver and get shut out. The Canucks played a fantastic game in that one, beat them 4-0. They lose in Calgary. That was the confusing one for me, the one I couldn't figure out. They lose 2-0 in Calgary. And then they go to Edmonton and they somehow find 6 goals in that one. This is still a very good Florida team. I think they want to end this trip on a good note. And the thing is, Fleury's numbers are good. As far as the season he's had as a backup, playing 7 or 8 games, his season has been very good. But he hasn't faced teams like the Florida Panthers. When you play second fiddle to Gustafsson, you play the games that they want you to play. Usually it's the second of a back-to-back, or in the case of starting a game in Pittsburgh, because it's the last time you'll be in Pittsburgh, because he's retiring at the end of the season. So, with that said, I like Florida. I like him here because from here, they at home, they play St. Louis. And then you mentioned the sort of the back-to-backs. They're going to play back-to-backs on the 22nd and 23rd against Tampa Bay. The NHL sets up the schedule like that. So there's, the 2 Florida teams aren't traveling and they're with their families at Christmas time, because the last games are on the 23rd, and then they're off the NHL is off for 3 days. I'm not sure about the total here, but I do like the Panthers in this spot. So I'm gonna lay the $140 on Florida in this one. It's funny, Andrew. I just want to mention before we get into the best bet segment, one guy mentioned free thinkers. Like, it's not gambling if you know who's going to win, right? It's kind of like the saying, you don't pay vig on winning bets, so you can lay 200 or 250 or 300 if they win. You're not laying big. For you guys who are older, not the younger guys, you're older. I watched this movie, Andrew. I'm going to channel my inner Prez. I rented this movie on Amazon Prime the other day because I had nothing to do during the afternoon. I finished all my work. It's from the 1980s. It's called Let It Ride. with Richard Dreyfuss, a young Jennifer Tilly. My God, a young Jennifer Tilly. You got to see it. Absolutely the funniest degen movie you can watch. It's about a guy who's a taxi driver who hears a conversation about a race that is somewhat fixed, and he has the day of his life at the track, rolling over his money each and every race and winning. Andrew, it is a degen movie at its best for $3.99 to rent on Amazon Prime. It's absolutely hilarious. Let It Ride. Richard Dreyfuss, fantastic movie. With that said, Andrew, I'm going to send it to you for your best bet and let us know what Mr. Fire has loaded up at WagerTalk.
Carm, we got a 5% play tonight, man. I'm excited. 5% play out of all 10 of these winners on the 10-0 run. Not one of those was a 5% play. Tonight is the night for it. 10-0 streak and also a 75% run long-term with these 5% NHL plays. This play stuck out to me right away in the NHL. So, guys, if you want to join me on that, join me over at wt.buzz/am, my favorite bet of the day. Hopefully going for winner number 11 on the streak tonight. If you don't want to just get that one play, there's two options. You can either get that great deal right now where you get 10 days for the price of 7 over at wagertalk.com, or you can use that promo code season150, season150, take $150 off my full NHL season. And I thank you guys that have joined me throughout this streak on that great deal. Join me for the full season. You're going to get the plays the second that I release them, and I hope you guys will join me for the remainder of the season. But don't miss out, guys. 5% big bet in the NHL tonight. And my free play is going to be the Minnesota Wild. I just love that plus price there, plus 130 for a team I think will be razor focused in this spot. They've been very inconsistent, but they do play their best hockey when they are at home. And this Florida team coming off a big win against a rival in the Western Conference, with it being the Edmonton Oilers, who they faced last year, of course, in the Stanley Cup Finals. Looking for a letdown from the Panthers tonight and a big game out of the Minnesota Wild. Carm, how about yourself, man? What's on tap for tonight?
NHL card will be up shortly, including a play for tomorrow. I mentioned earlier in the week that I really like a game on Thursday. It'll be a 5% play. It will not be the game that I'm going to be at. So I can tell you that it's not the Vancouver Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights. I will be in Vegas tomorrow, flying out in the morning. I will be at the game with Marco D'Angelo and his beautiful wife, Brian Leonard. His beautiful wife as well, too. They're joining me. I'm going to pick up the tickets right after this show goes off the air. And we're going to go and watch the game. Andrew, it'd probably be rude for me to put on a Vancouver Canucks jersey and wear it at the Vegas Golden Knights game, right? I only do that to the Prez, where I wear the opposing team's jersey. But with that said, guys, I will have a NHL card up shortly. You can two ways. That promo code that Andrew gave you for the rest of the NHL season to get $150 off. It is also day 8 of the 12 days of Christmas for me. And this one is $30 off a 7-day all-access NHL package that expires at midnight. So if you get that, you'll get the next 7 days of NHL, $30 off. And you'll get that 5% play, which will be loaded up this afternoon for Thursday's NHL action. My free play, Andrew, is going to be the over in Anaheim and Winnipeg. You brought it to my attention, and that doesn't have anything to do with this play, but you brought it to my attention. It is the mother's trip for the Winnipeg Jets, and they found a way to come back yesterday and beat the San Jose Sharks 4-3. With Hellebuck starting yesterday, it's going to be Eric Comrie in goal. His numbers are good, but they're not that good. He's 3-4. Subpar save percentage, not a very good goals against average, and it's sort of the same thing. He's allowing about 3.5 goals per game. The Ducks are going to score some goals tonight, but I expect Winnipeg to come out on the right end of it, and that's why I like the over in this game. The over is listed at 6. I'm going to take the 6 in this game. Over 6, Anaheim and Winnipeg tonight on the West Coast. That is my free play on today's show. News on Alex Lyon. As reported, just to let you guys know, so this will be a play for me, as reported by Daniela Bruce, who's a reporter for the Tigers and for the Detroit Red Wings. Alex Lyon will start in net tonight. Cam Talbot skated today, and they're hoping to have him back in the lineup for the weekend. So good news for Detroit. They're getting their goalies back. I'll make Detroit a play as well too today. For myself, Andrew McInnes and Dan Alexander. This is PuckTime, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and you'll see the guys tomorrow. I'm traveling, so I will catch up with you guys on Friday.